I want to go live. Boom, waka waka, 1,000, 2 1,000. So folks, you're live on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. And for those who don't know, I'm Teddy. My sidekick is Randy Wood, and our special guest today is Jonathon, and we'll talk a little bit more about him in a minute. But first, I want to introduce you to our sponsors. The Elder Law Firm is one of our show sponsors. They help you stay committed to the ones that you love, to help them with estate and elder care planning. So if you have anyone in your life that you want to help with those matters, reach out to the Elder Law Firm in Greensboro, North Carolina, 336-396-4551, or go to elderlawfirm.com. And it's important that you remind them or let them know that Randy told you to call them. So good stuff. Thank you for everybody being there. Randy, how the heck are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm good. And timing was just right there, Teddy. I appreciate that for stalling for just a moment while I
111 times. I'm getting better.
Well, I just shared on Facebook and also on LinkedIn. So we're there. All set. Another week, another Wednesday, and another special guest. But first, Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina, right here in beautiful, sunny, balmy Winston-Salem, the capital of all that is good in the world. But anyway, in all seriousness, a Runner Professional Center, happy to help if you're a job-seeking professional and for whatever reason are running into some challenges. And there are challenges out there. It's not as easy as you might think. And we're going to kind of dovetail a little bit of this, the challenge with our special guest today. And Jonathon Schultheiss joins us. So we'll move on to him in just a moment. But we're going to talk about is the Great Resignation and what drove it, what is driving it still, what can companies do to address it, what are some of the financial ramifications of such great turnover, what are employees really looking for in terms of perhaps benefits, that kind of a thing. Just a lot of that. We want to have you join in with questions and comments, and Teddy will keep an eye on the chat box. So if you have those comments, questions, put them in there. Don't put them in the Q&A, because Teddy doesn't monitor that. He's not paid enough to do that. And he only keeps an eye on the chat box. But yeah, so let's dive in. It's a few minutes after 12. Jonathon, why don't you introduce yourself? Teddy, wait, you have something you want to throw in there?
Wait a minute, did I miss that? Did you introduce? Everybody knows who you are and what you do, right?
They better if they were listening.
They were listening.
I think Teddy was taking a nap.
I think Teddy was checking out more dad jokes. So
I may have gotten discombobulated. Go ahead, man. Keep moving forward.
Jonathon Schultheiss joins us. He's the managing director for Strategic Retirement Partners. He's a financial planner, author, and a father of 4. And he's not here to offer financial advice. This is not a, hey, what do I do with my 401k rollover? And it's not that stuff. But John, I've known Jonathon for years, and I told him this over the phone, Teddy. I said, Jonathon could make watching paint dry sound interesting. He's a numbers guy, but he's got a passion for helping people. And this whole Great Resignation resonates with pretty much everybody, whether you're a job seeker, whether you're an employer, HR person. I mean, everybody's got a dog in the hunt here to some degree. And so Jonathon's going to sort all that stuff out for us today. But before we do and dive into it, Jonathon, if you would just give us a little bit more of your background and what brings you here anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. I appreciate you guys having me. Guys, I'm Jonathon Schultheiss, like Randy said, managing director for Strategic Retirement Partners. My core focus is really working with companies on their 401k plans. And so interestingly enough, as I'm having client conversations, it seemed like the Great Resignation was dominating that conversation.
Yeah.
And so it kind of led me to going, hey, let me try to learn some more so I can offer some insight when I'm having these conversations with clients. So yeah, so that's I guess why I'm here, right?
You
got 4 children?
I have 4 children.
Yes. How young, Jonathon? Are they like 15, 20, 25, or are they little ones?
So check this out. My oldest is 22, and then I have a 19-year-old. Yeah. Then I have a 15-year-old and a 6-year-old. Totally
Boy.
planned. Totally planned.
That gets you into all the schools across the state.
Oh yeah, I got 2 in college, 1 in high school, and 1 in kindergarten. How about that?
There you go. And you also have a pretty cool sign behind you. What does that say? What does that sign say behind you?
So this is our branding. We call it Becoming a 401k Superhero. And so one of the things that we're real big on is employee education. And I'll talk a little bit about this and kind of share some experiences as we get to talking. But we do a lot of individual, almost like financial counseling with employees of companies that we handle their 401ks.
Gotcha. Hey, always ask the why question. Jonathon, I know you're passionate about what you do. You've been doing it for a very long time and you're very good at it. So was it a single instance or a series of events that sort of directed you down your path? What is your why?
You know, that's a great question. And so interestingly enough, as we were just talking about family a minute ago, we always knew we wanted to have a big family, right? And so we worked really hard to be able to have my wife be a stay-at-home mom. And I can remember going from, 2-income family to a 1-income family and, all the work that you had to do to learn to get your finances in order and do all these other things and get things right. And the interesting part about that, I remember the day she goes in to turn in her notice, that exact same day, I got let go from my job. And so you talk about taking everything that you've learned and put into place, and it got real. Right.
Real
and
quick.
So
yeah.
You had to learn, okay, how we're going to make this work. And so fortunately, she was able to continue working a little bit longer. Than I found a job and actually ended up getting into financial services. So all the things that we did to get our finances in order is what I started teaching other people. And interestingly enough, it actually became a book. And so was a book that I wrote that I used to help employees and individual clients and things too, called Focused: The Financial Freedom Formula.
I'll tell you what, and this, the book is free, so it's not like you're out to make $1 million in this thing, right? So, but it's available for free, I think, online or just whatnot. So, Teddy, maybe you and your crack research staff can put the link in the chat. Maybe Jonathon can tell you what it is, and you can go find it.
The website is thefocusedbook.com, and it's available electronic version on there, and I even did it in an audio version, so it's available for free. But if you want to buy it, you can get it on Audible or Apple or whatever, and every time you buy it, I think I make 10 cents or something. So
you know what, you and Teddy have the path to be a multimillionaire. I'm telling you, Teddy is all in that 10 cents here, and 10 before you know it, you got $2. So. Yeah, absolutely.
So I got my last royalty check from Amazon was 78 cents.
Good deal. Hey, the Great Resignation is our main topic today. I think we've all, unless you've lived under a rock, you've heard about it. You may not know what it is or the severity of it, so to speak, but we've heard that term. We've also heard the turnover tsunami. And all you need to do is drive up and down any main street business district and you'll see help wanted signs. You'll see those all over the place. Turnover is at unprecedented levels, but it's also, and this is just my observation from sitting through different talks and presentations and such, that there are a lot of demographic issues going on here. Guys like Teddy and me, I know, well, okay, guys like me, because Teddy's much younger than I am. Just ask him. I mean, he's way younger, but guys like us, we're retiring, we're done, but we still need to be, I'll use the word serviced in a very polite way. But if we want to go out to eat or we want to go shopping, I mean, we still need people to assist us. And there are fewer younger people being born and entering the workforce. And those who do may not necessarily want to work for the man, so to speak. And so there are a lot of different issues. Let's unravel some of that. So let's start, I guess, by maybe a definition. When you talk Great Resignation, what is that to you? And then we'll unpack a little bit more about it.
So when we talk about the Great Resignation, what's interesting is the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually tracks the amount of people who quit their job. They call it the voluntary turnover rate. Okay. And what's interesting is last year, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the voluntary turnover rate was 25%. So if there are 100 people in the company that
roughly 25 of those folks voluntarily left the job to go somewhere else, or just or retired, just said I'm out, I'm
on
done.
average. Now
On
it
average.
could be retirement, could be, leaving their job. I mean, it could be any number of reasons, but they actually track that number. And so the interesting thing about that, even though it was 25% in 2021, I was actually looking at the numbers earlier today, because you can go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics website and you can see the numbers. We were seeing like 4.5 million in November of last year, people quit their job. And we actually saw a slight decline in the first part of this year. But in March, because March is the last numbers that they have, in March, we were back over, I think we were at 4.5 million in March of this year.
Who quit?
Who quit their job.
People quit.
So even though, you used to hear the Great Resignation all over the news and all over TV and these things, and you quit hearing about it, but yet when you go and look at the numbers haven't gone down. It's not going away. It's still happening, even though you're not hearing about it. But there's other news that's, Ukraine and everything else is dominant.
Yeah, and just as kind of a disclaimer, and to kind of cut off if there's ever any comments that deal with it, we're not going to dive into a lot of the politics, world politics, and other things around that. We're also not going to offer financial advice and what to do. I wonder, I have a question, and I don't know whether this is trackable or not. But what if that same person, and I've known clients, they've had 2 or 3 jobs in the last year or two. I guess they could be counted numerous times if they were to quit. So it's the overall number of people that walk away. And a lot of folks have taken jobs through staffing firms, and they may leave that assignment, go somewhere else. I don't know whether they're counted multiple times in that sense. Do you have an idea on that one?
I don't know if that counts as multiple times, but if you think about that as a company, though, that could be devastating as a company, because if you look at the numbers of SHRM, right? SHRM says for every 1% of turnover, it costs the company about $189,000.
Let's hold that thought, and we'll dive into the SHRM later. But let's explain what is SHRM. I should know. Teddy would know, and you would know. What is SHRM? Yeah.
So I know we throw out these numbers from different places, but SHRM's the Society of Human Resource Management, right? So they track a lot of employment numbers. They track a lot of things going on in human resources. Always a good source. I love to quote anytime that, SHRM does a research, they usually have some really good research metrics.
You mentioned in your talking points the statistics behind or of the Great Resignation, and something I see in the news, and maybe you can help us understand this, is what they call the participation rate in the workforce. So what does that, if I'm able-bodied and I choose not to work, then what does that mean? There's the participation rate.
Yeah, so when we're tracking the unemployment numbers and these things right here, a lot of times it's people who are, actively seeking employment.
Okay.
And, you can have folks who just, aren't looking for employment, right? And so wouldn't technically go against that. So I think that's the issue when you look at, folks who are looking. But what's interesting is we look at the number of the people quitting their jobs, but at the same time, we're seeing unemployment go down. So we're seeing a lot of the folks who are quitting their jobs, they're just really not out looking for another job. And there's some other statistics that kind of show the evidence of that, which is interesting.
Now and I'm no economist, Teddy, you know that.
Yeah, but you know how to rub 2 nickels together.
I can't even balance my checkbook. So no, just kidding. Just kidding. There's the youth. We're going to talk about, we're going to get a little geeky here, and I don't know how deep you want to get with this stuff. But the U3 unemployment rate is what is typically talked about when you see unemployment is 3.8%, whatever. And that's only people who are still collecting unemployment benefits, I believe. And so are still they've filed for unemployment, they got accepted, and they're still getting unemployment insurance. So they're quote unquote actively looking for work, but it doesn't count people who have gone off the dole, so to speak, and their unemployment benefits have expired, or people who just say, you know what, I'm going to get under the table money or whatever. So do you know much about the U3 and then the other different variables of ways of counting the true number of folks who aren't working, who otherwise would like to work, perhaps?
Just to make sure I understand something, Randy.
All right.
Is U3 different than U2?
YouTube.
Are you talking the band? Are you talking the band, or are you talking like actual economic stuff there, Teddy?
I might have been talking about the band. Never mind.
This is not
Keep going.
American Bandstand, right? So, but
Yeah,
the U3 rate is, and it makes our, I will say, our government look good. It makes our people feel good that, hey, you know, we have a robust economy. And I can tell you what, you know, because I see it every day. I see people that, I mean, my job is dealing with guys that don't have jobs. And 3.9 ain't getting it. It's higher than that. It's just those are the ones who are still collecting unemployment insurance, unless I'm off base, and I don't think I am.
There's a lot of different metrics for measuring unemployment. The majority of unemployment is what they call like the household survey, right? So there's like so many million households that they survey every so often, and they ask them, are you actively seeking employment? So, you know, that sample of however many million households it is usually assumed to be an overall rating of the economy. So, you know, just like any kind of statistics, there's definitely, you know, flaws in that. And not only that, but the number that they're talking about there is a national average. You know, so when you start looking at the regional numbers, and it's completely different, because if you start looking regionally, even when you start looking at the number of quits from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the one region that is almost double any other region is right here in the South.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that. Unless, Teddy, you've got, it looks like there are a couple of questions we may want to work in, but I love that.
Going, I'll get back to you.
So you're, if I'm hearing you right, then you're saying the Southeastern United States has what, greater turnover, greater unemployment, greater, you say
Resignation?
Greater number of people that quit their jobs according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, here's the thing: in the regions that they measure is the Northeast, the South, the Midwest, and the West. So, so it's the South specifically. But if you look at the numbers, even in March, remember we're talking about the March numbers right now, they estimated that there was 1.7 million people in the South, and the only closest region after that was the West at just over 1 million. So so significantly more people in the South quitting their jobs than anywhere else.
Well, that's because we got Florida with everybody retiring down there.
Well, and do they cite reasons? I mean, one of the reasons is there are plenty of jobs, and so why should I stay in this stinking job when I can go on the street and work for Teddy Burriss? Kind of a thing. I mean, if the job's to be had, people jump in. The water's warm, right? Or are there other reasons why we lead the league in quits?
You know, I don't know. It doesn't really give me any statistics as to why, but I mean, if you think about that, one of the things that we've seen, and I know just from, you know, companies that I've been talking to, is, man, we've seen salaries going up significantly, and people being recruited away from companies to go to other places.
Yeah. All right. Listen, we need our audience to participate. I need to know from our 11,000 people in the audience, who do you just comment back in the comments? Do you know people who have just quit their job because they wanted to quit? And then here's the other question: do you know why they quit? So drop in. I mean, 11,000 people in the audience. Drop in. Do you know someone who's quit? And yeah, Dean, I'm doing a poll. And another question is, do you know why they quit? So drop that in chat. We'd love to hear it. And while you're doing that, I'll get Jonathon to answer and Randy to play with this question, unless you're going to do it later. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I want to talk to that question too, because what's interesting is here recently, my daughter's car, the little key stopped working in her car, right? And so somebody's like, you got to call so-and-so, some guy, he does keys. And so I called this guy up, he shows up and we're chit-chatting, and he goes, yeah, he said, I just started this key business last year. And I was like, interesting. I said, tell me more. He's like, I bought this software and I bought this thing. He said, and I wanted to start this business doing keys. And my wife said, well, if you can show me that you can make enough money, then you can quit your job. And he said, first weekend, he's like, I made $1,800 in the first weekend. He's like, I quit my job. And now he does keys. And so you think about that. I mean, there's a pattern where people are just, they're looking to do something different and be in control of their future.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Yep.
Here we go. Dean challenged me. Dean just challenged me. I put
All
a
right.
poll up that, look, there's 12,000 of you in the audience. I need some of you to answer this question. Do you know people who simply quit their jobs? Thanks for the challenge, Dean, or not? So 75% so far. How many people? Only 50% of the 12,000 have responded. And it looks like close to 3/4 of them know people who just simply quit their job. Look at that. 75%. We know people who just simply quit their job. Come on, I need some more people to engage. I got 12,000, only 8,000 you've jumped in.
That's tough when if we've always been told, and of course I'm as old school as you'll get based on the fact that I'm old. And the point is, don't quit a job until you have another job.
Yeah, that's what Lisa's dad told her.
Yeah. And I think a lot of folks have had that ingrained in them it's easier to find a job when you have another job. Now, I don't always agree with that from a time standpoint. It takes time to look for a job. And if you have a full-time job, then it becomes a time issue, but you have more leverage financially. You don't have, I ain't going to take your stinking job because you ain't paying me enough, kind of thing. I'm not just going to leave a job for another job unless it's a better fit for however I define that. So I have leverage if I have a job. But I'm wondering, are you seeing, or do we know, or are we getting a sense that people are leaving a job just to get the heck out, thinking I'll figure it out? Not that they're trying to open their own business, but they just said, look, I've had enough. I got a little bit saved away and I'm just going to go, and I know I can find a job soon enough. Is that kind of what's going on? What's your take, and what's the take on the guys that are in attendance here?
Well, look what Lisa said. She's hearing people leave because of the politics in HR. Josh says that looking for better opportunities. Todd said people are leaving big banks because they're frustrated with mergers. Stevie said, physician quit because of the red tape and the fact that people come in bleeding. And I added that last part, Stevie. He works concierge medicine and takes cash, check, or credit cards. No more insurance. Happier than ever. Dealing with students and parents, early retirement. So there's lots of different reasons. Back to you, buddy.
Yeah, so a lot of reasons. I guess the underlying theme here is that one size doesn't fit all. And whether that's the reason for leaving a job or the type of work that you want to pursue, whether it's making keys and making bank over the weekend and quitting your job, or going to work for who knows what, or just under the table.
So here's
I didn't say that. Can I say that under the table?
You can, Randy, but I don't want to ever catch you falling down and just hanging out under the table again.
Well, okay. I'll duly noted.
Here's an interesting thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Upwork and Fiverr and these freelancer websites, but one of the things that there's been a major shift and a trend is the growth of Upwork. And Upwork as, freelancer website where somebody can go and post services. So if you're a professional and you have services to offer, you can go to Upwork. It's interesting because I started looking at the numbers of Upwork, just the growth of their revenue. And in 2021, Upwork grew their revenue 91% a quarter.
Yeah. And
you think about the amount of people who are quitting their jobs to actually go be freelancers at Upwork. It's just Upwork because I can track them because they're publicly traded. But Upwork also did a survey of their freelancers, and they found that 56% of non-freelancers said that they're likely to consider freelancing in the future. And this was a survey they did last year. And not only that, but 44% of freelancers said they made more money freelancing than they did in their regular job.
Yeah, I get that. There's another one, Jonathan, called bark.com, BARK.com.
Interesting.
And by the way, this is called the gig economy. And there are a lot of people who are saying this gig economy, they'll make nickels, dimes, and pennies. I mean, I contend in some respects, I'm a part of this gig economy. I make money
Yeah.
from YouTube and Quora, and I make money from online classes, and some pretty good coin. It buys all of my beer and cigars and then some.
Mm-hmm.
That says a lot.
And I said earlier, we're not going to get into politics, but I lied. So we're going to talk. Well,
Because you can, right, Randy?
Well, because I can. Now here, I run into this from time to time with my clients. And again, I run our professional center at Goodwill. These are professionals that are in a job search. And part of what is Teddy a multimillionaire? You better believe he's I don't know if you count it in dollars, you might count it in like, pennies, but he's got millions of them stashed away in his vault over there. Here's the deal. A lot of folks well, Jonathan, you're a good example. You're a single earner family. You got dependents, you got kids in college, you got bills out the wazoo, right? And where I'm going with this is healthcare. That's one of the biggest things that keeps people at a company is I need benefits. And I'm not here to advocate for, a single payer. I'm not, but I'm just trying to state one of the reasons that people stay with companies is because the benefits. If they left the company and they were on their own, benefits would through the roof, or at least that's the perception. Mm-hmm. So, and you deal with benefits. I mean, you're a benefits guy, right? So you've got more knowledge about that than I do. How strong a tether is healthcare when people are weighing whether to strike out on their own?
So when you think about that, it reminds me, Glassdoor did a survey, and they said that I think it was 70-something% of employees preferred additional benefits over a pay raise. And if you think about that, a lot of times when I'm talking to folks that, that's a 2-income family, one does go out on their own. The other one usually stays just for the benefits. And so benefits alone are just an extremely expensive thing to go out and buy. And so as a company, that's your advantage. And I look at this and say, as a company, as a executive or HR person or somebody who's responsible for designing benefits, I think one of the keys to surviving the Great Resignation is to have a very competitive benefits package.
Mm-hmm. And you deal with that a lot. I mean, that's just part of what you do on your job every day. I know, Teddy, we're getting close to half past. Do you want to?
I got it. But look at what you just said, Jonathan. You used the phrase, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. Corporate America has that benefit, that advantage. Man, that's, and I get it. Believe me, I get it. I raised 4 daughters. And when I was younger, there's no way in the world that my wife and I wanted to go truck out and start my own business unless I had my daughters protected. But I really believe in a lot of cases, not all cases, but in a lot of cases, that tether is overstated. And there's ways of getting through that. There's ways of accommodating that. Look, insurance only means one thing. You need money to pay for insurance. So if you're going to break that tether, find a way to make enough money to break that tether.
100% agree. And one of the things that you can see, like if you go to Upwork, like I've been to Upwork to actually hire freelancers, it'll show you their earnings. And some of those guys, they're making plenty of money to be able to buy their own benefits.
But it can be a concern. And I guess there's the fear of the unknown. And let's face it, we're human.
I get that.
And we just don't know what the future holds. Like the key guy, right? So he made $1,800 the first weekend. He thought he hit the lottery. I mean, and it's legal, right? But who knows the future? And maybe cars, quit using keys and whatever. And so his business dries up.
There's another statistic that says that 50% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. So I think what we're going to see is, even though we're seeing the gig economy grow, I think, if those statistics stay the same, you're probably going to see a lot of people migrating back into corporate over time. The guys who, like you said, Teddy, who go into it with their eyes wide open and they understand I got to make enough to pay my insurance. those are probably the guys that'll make it, right? The other guys that don't, they'll probably be back into.
Yeah.
Yep. Teddy, it's half past. Let's take care of business.
I'll get to Don's comment in a minute.
Yep.
So, hey, everybody, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. Our special guest today is Jonathon. The conversation is all about the Great Resignation, or the Great Realignment, as I think CNN referred to not too long ago. Hey, Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy is sponsored by the Elder Law Firm. Look, I love this statement. Who's important to you and how you plan to honor your responsibility to them, that's also important to the Elder Law Firm. So if you know people who have estate planning needs, elder care planning needs, reach out to the Elder Law Firm, 336-396-4551 in Greensboro, North Carolina, or go to elderlawfirm.com. But it's important when you contact them that you say to them, Randy told me to call you. Back to you, buddy.
Really? That was their first mistake. No, just kidding. No, seriously, that's a good thing, because many of us have aging parents, aging relatives, and we need somebody looking out for them, because in a lot of cases they're not in a position to really have the knowledge that they need to take care of their affairs and such. So Jonathon Schultheiss joins us. So when he is not the 401k superhero as depicted in the sign behind him.
Well, he may be, but that's not why he's here.
He's not here for that. And he's not here to tell you where to put your money in 401k. I mean, he's a financial advisor, and I get that. But, I heard you speak at we had a SHRM, and again, I'll mention what SHRM is, Society for Human Resource Management. You were a presenter a few months ago. And I've known you for 4, 5, 6 years now. But you talked about this very topic that we're discussing today. And the audience was HR folks, and saying, hey, here's what's going on. Here's why people are leaving. Here's some stats on this stuff. Here's some things you can do to try to mitigate the losses, if you will, stop the bleeding, but also to attract and retain the folks that you need. So that's our topic today. If you have questions, comments, we've had several. I know, Teddy, you're going to monitor the chat, and I think you want to tackle Don's comment or question. Don't tackle Don. That was my first mistake.
That'll put a hurting on me. Hey, look, we were talking about this. The people strike out on their own. I proclaimed that insurance is not an issue if you find a way to make enough money to pay for the insurance. And Don goes, hey, there's even more to it than that.
Yep.
You're going to go out on your own, no matter what you're doing. Maybe you're going to go become a Fiverr of a hero, or an Upwork hero, or a Bark hero, or YouTube hero. You better make enough money, way more money than you were making before, because now you're not only responsible for your health care, but you're responsible for your own corporate taxes, your personal taxes. You got, nobody's paying for your cell phone or your computer anymore, and on and on and on. And so, you better make enough money to do all that, or just like Jonathon said, within 5 years, you're going to go back.
Yeah. Yo says a comment. We've had some other ones too. So Teddy's going to keep an eye on that. But Jonathon, we talked about SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, and you mentioned the cost of turnover, and you just touched on it. And then I said, hey, let's get to that later. So later is now. How much money and time and how's it all tabulated? But just when Teddy leaves his job, his employer is really taking a beating on it, aren't they? It's costly.
And I also take a beating as she kicks me out the door.
Well, there's that too. I got an extra couch right over here, Teddy. You're welcome anytime.
You should offer
that. So there's a cost involved, and I guess there's maybe I'll use the word hidden cost as well. But let's dive into that. So if somebody leaves, what's the real cost to a company on average, and how is that tabulated?
So if you think about what SHRM says, is it costs somewhere between 90 to 200% of the salary to replace that person. And that is in training, recruiting, all of these other things.
Yeah.
And so if you put that number into account, and here's what I did is I took the average salary of like North Carolina, I think it was like 50,000 or something. And for a company that's 150 employees, and for every 1% of turnover, that costs them $189,000. for every 1% of turnover at a 150 employee company. Obviously, if it's larger, then every 1% is more significant. But even if you looked at the turnover of that for a 150 employee company, and remember last year, the voluntary turnover was 25%, and it looks like the numbers haven't really gone down that much this year. I mean, if you did the math on that, man, that's $4.7 million.
Yeah.
So
it's huge.
Yeah, it's a big potential cost for companies that, can't really stop this turnover issue. And here's the thing is, even though there was a survey done that said 55% of people are currently looking for a job, they actually took that survey and they surveyed more of the lower wage workers.
Right.
And that number was like 77%.
Yeah.
So if you've got lower wage workers, obviously they might make a lower salary, but yet it's a higher amount of those folks that are looking for a job. So I'd say the risk is even more for your lower wage workers.
How receptive have companies been to voluntarily ratchet up what they're paying, and what are some other means that they're using to try to keep people, especially the ones I want to keep? I guess you can't. Yeah, maybe you can pinpoint the ones you really want to keep and maybe offer them more of a raise than maybe other ones. How's that shaping up?
Well, the challenge is, and this is from conversations that I'm having with different, CFOs and things. And one of the issues is we're having pretty staggering inflation right now. Yeah. But if you raise salaries too much, you can't typically reduce somebody's salary, right? You have expenses that go up with inflation, and hopefully they go down. But imagine having the conversation going, hey guys, I'm sorry, we raised your salary too much last year. We're going to have to reduce it this year. That doesn't happen, right? So what most companies are looking to do is going, what other things can I offer employees as a benefit or something like that versus raising the salary? So we're seeing that in conjunction, because right now you almost have to raise the salary. And one of the things, and I know the number is a little more in financial services, and financial services right now, we've seen salaries just go up exponentially. I'm talking to CPA firms who across the board are having to give their staff 20% salary increases to keep them.
Jonathan, don't talk about that stuff like that. Now, can you make Randy think?
Well, interestingly enough, we had we were experiencing the people leaving too, turnover in the Great Resignation. I had one of our staff members was offered a 50% salary increase. And as much as I was like, I hate for you to take it, I hate to lose you, we can't match it, but I can't, I would feel guilty trying to talk you out of taking a 50% pay increase.
Wow. Something else beside the pay, the numbers, is the brain power, the experience, the knowledge, all of the intellectual stuff that goes on. And I'll use me as an example. And this is not a pitch to Goodwill to bump me 50%.
What, you want to record this part, Randy?
Listen closely.
Who I need to call after this, Randy.
All right. People. That's good. I've been there almost 10 years to the day. I know a lot of stuff. I know how Goodwill operates. I understand our business model. I know how to do my job backwards and forward. And I've been doing it for a long time. So if I leave, they can replace, everybody's replaceable. Anybody who thinks they're not, you got another thing coming. I know where all the bodies are buried. Good. That's a good one, Dean. But it's the intellectual property stuff. It's the knowledge. It's understanding how to do your job. You bring somebody in brand new. Now, granted, you could move them internally so they would at least understand the Goodwill way of doing business and our mission and that kind of a thing. But then that leaves a hole somewhere else at Goodwill. So that turnover, not only do you the dollar issue and the training, everything, but you lose the what's up here. And I don't know, how do you define that cost?
Well, I think that's where Sherm gives such a range. Because if you think about this, right? If you left Goodwill and Goodwill replaced you with me or Teddy, right? It's going to take us a while to figure out all the things that So that's going to be lost productivity. It's going to take us a while to get up to speed, and somebody's going to have to stop what they're doing to train us on what we need to be doing. So there's lost productivity for that other person. So I think the companies that are the smartest are the ones that realize a 20% increase in salary or 10% increase in salary to keep somebody makes a lot of sense, because here's the thing, they may have to end up paying somebody more to get them to come to work right now.
Yeah.
So if you don't have to have an increased salary, and you can just slightly give the current employees a little bit more pay, in the long run is probably the way to go.
So
yeah.
So a couple other things that are going on that how organizations are dealing with or trying to deal with this great resignation. And it's not just because of the resignation, it's because of what's changing in the workforce. Two examples. Number one is organizations who are now having to very deliberately combat the growth of unions. Example, Starbucks. So Starbucks, how they did this, I don't know. They have each store as being a company of its own, which is pretty interesting to me that that's how they are able to do that. But they're following the law. I get that. But they're having to combat certain stores that are having union organizers. Now, by the way, I'm neither here to positive or negative. I'm just telling you what's going on. And what they are doing, which they got to do very carefully, and that is they're going into those stores where they fear the union organizers are going to be the most raucous, and they're offering pay raises before the union organization starts. So they're doing that. Here's another thing that's going on. Transparent pay rates is another big thing that's going on across the country, and that is there are states and even federal law conversations going on that organizations have to be more transparent about their pay rates for candidates. Well, that's a double-sided sword, because yeah, you may excite Teddy and Randy about the pay rates, but you may have employees who are on the lower end of that range, and you're going to hire somebody at the higher end of that range. So now the transparent pay rates are forcing organizations to come back and look at what they're paying their people and create some parity there. So there's lots of reasons why pay rates are going to go up. Lots of reasons why, not just because people are leaving, which is pretty interesting to see this all piling up on corporate America today. Back to you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Hey, you know what? Jonathan and I were talking offline a day or so ago, and I said, in fact, I told him today, I owe you the link to this thing. So I'll kind of touch on it briefly, but Greater Winston-Salem Inc. By the way, Mark Owens is their CEO and president. He'll be our guest next week on Lunch with Randy and Teddy. Talk about workforce development and a lot of the business things going on here. That's pretty cool. And I don't know that he'll divulge any deep, dark secrets, confidential stuff, but we'll ask him anyway. So Mark Owens will join us next week to get all the lowdown on business. But anyway, they had a presenter a few weeks ago that talked about the demographic rationale for this great resignation. Mm-hmm. Where are the workers? Why aren't they coming back? What caused them to leave? And it was fascinating. Best presentation I've heard. And I've heard of several as to why we're in the mess we're in. So Teddy, I'm going to send that link to you. Greater Winston had this event online a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to send it to you, and we can put that in any of the, in the show notes, and when we share it on, wherever we share it, we'll have it. It's free. It's the slide deck and the presenter. And again, this guy, I don't remember his name or who he's with, but he knew his stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll be insightful for anybody watching this to get a real understanding of the statistical breakdown as far as why we have what's going on. So, all right. So we're back on this the cost of turnover. So I think we've hit that. Where are these guys going? Where are the people leaving? That was something we kind of touched on. Do you have a sense? Is it mostly gig work? Is it another employer? Is it, I'm going to stay home and watch, Jerry Springer reruns, or what is it? I don't know. What is it? Where are they going?
I totally think it's folks that are starting businesses, because if you look at the number of federal tax ID applications last year, it jumped 56%. So those are folks that are, filing for their own federal tax ID number. That's pretty huge. So Not only that, and I know we talked about the numbers of like Upwork and Fiverr and things like that, but just the online seller Etsy had a 288% increase in online sellers. So I think where we are today is we're seeing people who are just being more creative. I think there's more opportunities today than there's ever been before for folks to start their own business. And so I think you're starting to see that trend. And I think what we needed was we kind of needed to go through, where we were in the past to kind of get there, where people are going, look, if I can make more money doing something else and have more free time, more time with my family and things like that, I think that's one of the things that's kind of leading this trend.
Yeah. One of the things that presenter spoke about, and I'm paraphrasing because he talked 100 miles an hour. I'm trying to remember stuff. But it is the huge gap, and we're talking education here. Mm-hmm. Many jobs do not require a 4-year degree, and we've been told ever since birth, college will get you more money, it's going to get you this, get you that. And not to say college is bad, I'm not saying that, but when you start to look at the number of jobs that are available that require a 4-year degree versus the overall number of jobs, it is a mismatch. There are many more people who have a degree, but there aren't enough jobs for those folks. There are plenty of jobs that don't require a degree, but the available talent pool of folks non-degreed is kind of small because a lot of those folks say, hey, you know what? I'm going to make keys on the weekend and make $1,800. Right. They're doing their own thing. And so as a result, the jobs that don't require a 4-year degree, there's so many of those unfilled, and you see them every day. You go down the street and we're hiring. And even if you want to get, and I'll get off my soapbox here in a second, but even if you want to work in manufacturing, you still have to have a level of technical acumen. You like that word, Teddy? Acumen? Technical acumen to be able to work the machinery. You've got to be a lifelong learner. It doesn't have to be a 4-year degree, but there's got to be a plan. And just as a shameless plug, this coming weekend, my article in the Winston-Salem Journal will be about, okay, I'm graduating from high school or graduating from college. What's next? And how are we going to go about that plan? So we're going to talk about that probably next week a little bit with Mark Owens and understand what's going on to help transition folks from the school to the workforce. Anyway, off the soapbox for now, but fascinating presentation from that fellow. And Teddy, are we seeing any other comments that you want to work in? I don't know.
Dean just told me I should go get a job at McDonald's because they're giving away iPads.
You need a new iPad.
Be creative.
Go there.
I read that story. Their organizations. Look,
Yep.
I just saw a few minutes ago, I saw a clinical research organization in Winston-Salem that has a $3,000 signing bonus for one level of a clinical research navigator, they call them. And then a higher level clinical research navigator, which is like a manager, a $5,000 signing bonuses. Now, those are they're not small, they're not huge signing bonuses, but $5,000 that might be worthy of a conversation.
Well,
sure.
Here's another thing too that I'll kind of point out, because we know that through this pandemic, we've seen financial stress go through the roof.
Yeah.
And with folks feeling stressed about their finances, and somebody's offering a $5,000 signing bonus and just maybe a slightly higher raise, I think the problem is a lot of Americans look at that and go, hey, that's the solution to my financial problem. And so it's easy to recruit that person, which, is probably not the solution. We know that the underlying habits are the problem.
Yeah.
And so that's if employers are smart, they're recruiting people that way. And it's working because, as we talked about, the lower wage workers are the ones who are feeling this inflation the most, guys. Yeah. And they're looking at any way out, and that's a way out for them.
I've often looked at a signing bonus as a lollipop or a Band-Aid.
Probably more often a Band-Aid right now.
Yeah, it depends on which one you want.
Yeah. Or like you go to buy a TV and you get $200 cash back, but you chunk out, $1,500 for the TV. But hey, I made $200. So woo-hoo.
Yeah.
Hey, one of the talking points you mentioned was the risk to rank and file employees. What do you mean by that? What's that about?
I think that goes back to exactly what we're saying here today, because as we go through, this situation, and we're seeing inflation and we're seeing things go up, the rank and file employees don't have access to financial advice like some of your higher income earners do. And that's really where we've been able to kind of step into the marketplace in the 401ks that we manage, where we want to be able to give financial advice, not investment advice, but financial advice to these folks. I spent 30 minutes the other day talking to a lady through her payday loans. And, predatory lending at the lower income level is brutal right now. And so just like what you just said a minute ago about signing bonuses, imagine somebody who has payday loans or just paying astronomical fees gets offered a $5,000 signing bonus, right? They go, oh my gosh, that can eliminate half my payday loans. It becomes the Band-Aid, like Teddy was saying, the lollipop or the Band-Aid, that's the Band-Aid.
Yeah.
So as much as I'm seeing this where, people at the lower or at the higher income level, yeah, they're inconvenienced by, the inflation and some of these other things, but it's really the lower wage workers that are just being hurt right now. And if they don't have their finances in order, it's even worse.
Yeah, and the folks on fixed incomes as well. If they don't have a nest egg, I mean, a fixed income, you're going to eat, you're going to get medicine. I mean, some of those are real choices, and we hate to see anybody in that scenario. Got a few minutes left here, and I do want you to summarize, but just real quick, you mentioned financial literacy. So if somebody or a company needs help, what are there's the government? Is it Jonathon? I mean, how do I find out more about financial literacy? What does that mean? Where do I go for answers on that stuff?
That's a great question. And that's really where we try to step in and help companies, especially with their, lower wage workers, to be able to step in and educate them on how to get their finances in order so that they don't have to, take a sign-in bonus and move on. There's a lot of other companies out there who offer different resources and things like that. But a lot of times what we try to do is make it a part of our regular services. So if we're handling the 401k, then, that's something that we offer to all those employees.
Okay. Well, and if somebody wants to reach out to you, then obviously they can do that. Teddy, or how are we going to get the word out? Phone, email, whatever. So you guys figure that out. While we're figuring it out, let's take a moment or two to give us some takeaways. What are some things that you've shared today that if we had to remember a couple, 3, 4 of them, what might they be?
I guess depending on where you are, right? What side of the Great Resignation are you on? If you're on that side of the employee looking for things, I think, to go and look at maybe an Upwork or a Fiverr, like we were talking about earlier, is a great way. But keep in mind, you need to charge enough because you're going to have additional expenses that you don't think about. I think that's a major takeaway from those folks who are thinking about starting their own business. As an employer or somebody responsible for recruiting, I think Fiverr is a great place to recruit as well. So imagine this: if you got a job that you need filled and you can hire somebody on a freelancer base to do it, but then when things start to change, you actually recruit that person who you already know their work history. I think is a great solution. So I think Fiverr and Upwork are great for both sides of the Great Resignation. And they're the winners, man. I mean,
Teddy, why didn't we think of Fiverr? Why didn't we think of starting that? I Google, Amazon, Facebook. I mean, small time peanuts. Fiverr. But Fiverr, man, we should have been on that one. Yeah. Dang it, Teddy.
I thought about it, Randy. I just didn't like the way they spelled it with a double R.
2 R's, yes. They needed.
What's funny? Fiverr actually ran a Super Bowl ad 2 years ago. And this was before the Great Resignation. And it's like, it's almost like, how did they see this coming? right? And they've experienced a lot of success with all this. So
Dean just dropped a great idea on chat for us. Let's go ahead and get into it. You guys bring your money, bring your checkbooks, and Dean's gonna be a part of it. Dean can be the CEO, and we're gonna start Sixer.
Sixer.
Make sure that's an I and not an E, right? So
Yeah.
Shut the internet down when Teddy gets a hold of that one. Hey, Jonathon Schultheiss, thank you very much for joining us today. We've learned a lot and had a few laughs along the way. See, I told you, Teddy, this guy could make paint drying interesting, right? He talked numbers all day and didn't miss a beat. We had a great time, and we had great engagement with our attendees, and we thank you for joining the call live. We're going to share this throughout the universe, through podcasts, through LinkedIn, through Facebook, through where else? Teddy? You do the world over, the galaxy over. Yeah. And it might even get swallowed up in that black hole. Did you see that in the news the other day?
I did see that, man. Yeah.
The black hole in our galaxy. Anyway,
that's where my TV remote went.
That's where my life savings went. So I need to talk to Jonathon. But quick story. And I'm just making this up as I go, Teddy. But I just think back in the day when getting started, you didn't have much leverage, you didn't have much money, and it was a struggle. And with family and such. And over time, you begin to acquire money and a sense of cushion or comfort that goes with having a little bit of money. And so you're not under the gun paycheck to paycheck, perhaps as many other are. I think I saw over 50% of the population is paycheck to paycheck. Mm-hmm. I think I saw that in the news, maybe 60. So the pain is real when inflation hits and we're barely making it. I've got Facebook friends that are just like, what do we do now? And, so there are a lot of real challenges out there, and companies face real challenges too. And being not an HR guy, but kind of being in that HR realm, I fully understand the dollar amount and all that stuff that goes on. And for companies who just say, we'll bring somebody else in, no problem. That's not the way to go. There's a real cost there. And I wish more companies were in tune to that. And I believe ours is, and I think other ones that really get it, they understand that and work to make their place an employer of choice and in a place that people want to work, not just solely for the money, but for the climate, you name it, the atmosphere, the culture, that kind of a thing. And nothing and no one's perfect, but I think companies are really having to pay more attention to that. As again, to your point, they can't solely compete on salary. There have to be other reasons that people come and stay. Teddy, I'll throw it to you to take us home and remember our next week's guest.
Yeah, we'll go back to that in a minute. Well, look, Here's my story. I'm a big fan of the gig economy. I think in many respects, I play in the gig economy. I have 4 daughters who do not have jobs. They all play in the gig economy, and they are playing successfully in the gig economy. Yeah. And so I'm a fan of Fiverr. I'm a fan of Bark. I'm a fan of Upwork. I'm a fan of affiliate marketing, Etsy, eBay, Facebook Marketplace. All of those places, if you have a plan, you can go and find a way to make a really good living doing that work. And towards that end, if you don't have the ability, I'm with you, Dean, Amazon sellers, all of that. If you don't have a plan how to take your gig economy and turn it into a thriving enterprise for you, go to score.org, SCORE.org. I'm a SCORE mentor. I love mentoring people who want to start their business. Go to the Small Business Administration, SBA.gov, and look for resources on how to put together a plan, how to do market research. And last point, go to your local small business center, which is in North Carolina or affiliated with the community colleges, and ask for help. You can be successful in the gig economy, but you damn well better have a plan. So that's my words, man.
Better plan.
Our guest
next week, Mark Owens, President, CEO of Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., makes a return appearance to Lunch with Randy and Teddy next Wednesday, the 25th at 11:55. And Mark will talk about not just workforce development initiatives, but just overall the what's going on with business, especially now that we're hopefully toward the rear view mirror, so to speak, of COVID, and to understand what's changed, where we stand, what's coming down the pike in the future. Mark Owens, Greater Winston-Salem Inc. Hope you'll join us. He is fantastic and really has a lot of insight as to what's going on here in our local area. He should, given where he works, right? So hope he can join us. Yeah, Teddy.
And for the 10,000 who are still on here, if you know a special guest that you'd like us to bring in, then get us introduced to that special guest and we'll have a conversation and try to bring him on the show. Jonathan, thanks for coming. Randy,
thanks, man.
Take care, buddy.
All right, see you. Thank you.